At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every sport should be epic. Every home run, every hit, every inning, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. Whether it's a walk-off grand slam or a base hit to center field. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every sport should be epic. Every home run, every hit, every inning, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. See for yourself when you sign up today and get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every sport should be epic. Every home run, every hit, every inning, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. See for yourself when you sign up today and get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, and welcome to the 1865 Match Report with me, the Maradona of the Midlands. Today, we are looking back at Nottingham Forest's tremendous 3-1 away win at Sheffield United. A win which hopefully will see them safe from the threat of relegation. To pick over the bare bones of that result, I'm joined by the Endrick of the podcasting world, Mr. George Edwards. Hello, George.
Good morning, Maradona. I share your positivity on this wonderful morning.
How can you not be positive? The sun's shining, Forest won. The world's looking brilliant today, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, let's start off with the team lineup yesterday. I think there were just two changes, weren't there, George?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, two changes. Monty out in for Williams, and then the other one was Yates, wasn't it, back into the midfield. Back to the back four. I was happy to see that. I thought Forest, I think we mentioned it in the Friday Five, should play their own football and attack Sheffield United and be happy to do that. So, yeah, no issues with the change to the back four. So, Sells played in goal. Aina, Murillo, Bolly, Monty out. Yates, Danilo, Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White, Elanga and Chris Wood. My one worry was Gonzalo Montiel at full-back. I think in a back three, he maybe works, but in a back four, is exposed defensively, as I'm sure we'll get on to. That did happen.
Yeah. And I did think of you when I saw the team. I thought at least George will be happy now with that. And it was a fairly bright start from Forest, wasn't it?
Well, the first minute was quite interesting because Sheffield United, I think they had kick-off. They came at Forest and got a free kick. And then Forest went up the other end down the right. Gibbs-White, last little ball into Wood at the back stick. He perhaps should have done better with it. It was flashed across goal, came at him quickly. But actually from then, it was not the best start from Forest. There was a bit of a Sheffield United storm that they had to weather. And if they'd have got that early goal, that would have swung everything in their way. But they didn't. And Forest, I think, they should have just sat in and weathered the storm, but they were trying to maybe commit too many bodies forward, which was just sort of letting Sheffield United come at them. And yeah, the start wasn't great really. And Sheffield United had a lot of pressure, didn't really do much until they won that penalty early on. So I don't think it was the best start from Forest, actually.
Yeah, I guess so. I was referring to that Chris Wood chance, which was a brilliant play by Morgan Gibbs-White, doing his usual, being extra motivated against a former club. Pretty tremendous run from him, showing strength and endurance to get past a few challenges and a beautiful ball into the box. And Chris Wood, the curse of Chris Wood strikes again. He's a few weeks ago that would have gone flying in, wouldn't it? And this time it's just flashing wide. Did you think it was in from your position at the away end?
I could always see it was going wide because I was just to the left of the goal, so I was on that side of it. And it was always going to be a difficult chance on his left foot, which we've seen he's good with his left foot. He scored that hat-trick against Newcastle on his left foot, and he's more than confident to do that. A couple of weeks ago, you'd have perhaps bagged him to get it on target. And it's just like things aren't going his way at the moment. You have those sort of spells as strikers. Since he hit the post against Tottenham, he's not really looked the same. And And when he doesn't score a goal, maybe you can be a bit critical of him and say that he doesn't have much of an impact on the game. But he's always in them areas. He's still getting chances. And that's, the issue is when you don't get chances. So at least he's still having chances.
Yeah, I famously went on TalkSport and said he was rubbish. He was like playing with 10 men. He promptly went and scored a hat-trick a couple of hours later against Newcastle. So that shows what I know anyway.
Did you have a bad turkey on Christmas Day then?
I'm a vegetarian. I can't even blame it on the turkey. So let's talk about that penalty incident, because that was the guess after that Chris Wood chance was the next major incident. I've seen it. I've got my own thoughts. They appear to be quite controversial compared to a couple of the other people in our group. But what was your view? How did it come about?
I thought it was a pen. Sheffield United broke from the right and drove into Forest's box, and it as much as Forest didn't start well, it was the first real time that they looked stretched. They had a few sort of long shots and balls into the box, but in terms of play along the floor, Forest were coping with it quite well. But yeah, that was the first time they stretched it, and it went sort of Brereton drove past Bolly and Montiel was the last man, and that's never a good situation to be in if Montiel's the last man. And he just lunges towards the ball. I think I thought he maybe got a touch on the ball, but I think the ball had long gone, and he's just sort of sprawled on the floor. Brereton, I thought it was a penalty straight away, to be honest, because I think Montiel makes Brereton jump over him. And if you do that in the box, it probably is a penalty. Looking back at it, there was minimal contact between the two. But if Brereton had just ran straight, he probably would have gone into him. So I think looking at it first time, it looked like a Stonewall penalty. Looking back at it, and I know you don't think it was a penalty specifically. I don't know. It probably still is a spot kick. But Sheffield United certainly merited the lead once they scored the penalty as well.
Yeah, so that's fine. I can see why it was given. I just noticed during the first half, especially, a lot of the Forest players were slipping. They're going down quite easily all over the pitch, and I think this may well have been another one of those occasions. It didn't look like a voluntary lunge from Montiel. If you have a look, I think both of his feet sort of went at the same time, and it was a bit of a slip. And it's maybe a generational thing where me, as a slightly older fan, remember the days when you had to really clatter somebody to get a penalty. And these days, well, that minimal contact will, I suppose, give you one. But I still think it's a really harsh one. I don't like to see penalties given for that. I was always think, does that offence equate to a free shot on goal with no defenders in front of you? And I don't think it really did. But I can see why it's given, and that goes to show why refereeing so hard and why being a VAR is so hard as well. So two people saw the same incident, have different views and opinions on it. But anyway, the other thing I noticed, Brereton scored the penalty, didn't he? And there was a bit of a spicy celebration from him. I didn't expect to see that from a modern day player.
No, well, that's what you come to expect in modern football, really, isn't it? I mean, fans love to give it to opposing players. I mean, it's baffling. Some of the Forest fans were even booing Ben Osborne, having given probably half of that away and one of the best moments at Derby, about 8 years ago. So it is baffling. And there was a bit of jeering, a bit of booing towards Brereton. So I don't know. I think he's well within his rights to sort of respond to that. Players now, they're not scared to respond to things like that. Maybe you saw back in the day, people just get on with it, crack on with what's going on the pitch. But nowadays, I think players don't really have that connection, that sentiment towards the clubs as they used to. So it didn't surprise me to see him do that. And it wasn't anything too extravagant, to be fair. I think he was just responding to a bit of aggro that Forest fans were giving him. So, yeah, I wasn't too fussed about that. It's a good penalty. Stuck Sells the wrong way, and Sells was actually furious with himself. I mean, once you guess the wrong way, there's not much you can do, but he wasn't a happy bunny, Sells.
Yeah, no, I always think the keeper should stand still. I think you're saving 50% of the time you should do that. But I don't know. I'm not a goalkeeping coach. So, yeah, Sheffield United take a 1-0 lead. A bit of a shock to the system now. They were all fearing the worst at that point, thinking, oh, no, here we go again. But Forest responded well, didn't they, George?
They did, yeah. The way the match was going, everyone was a bit worried. I mean, loads of people went out to go and get a pint and soothe the fear that crept in. But, yeah, I think it was always going to be a game of moments for Forest, because while in the opening 20 minutes they didn't have the quality or the good sort of play, they've got better players in Sheffield United. They're a better team, and they were always going to have moments. And it was always going to be about taking them, and they did that. About 10 minutes after the goal, Gibbs White wins it deep in midfield on the right. And actually, a lot of Forest joy. We spoke about the Wood chance earlier in the game. It was coming down that side. No surprise that the two defenders that were on that flank were Ben Osborne and Jack Robinson. But yeah, Gibbs White wins it on midfield. He plays it into Danilo, who in turn drives to the left and plays it to Hudson-Odoi. Excellent touch from him, chips it into the air for himself, and then carves it into the far corner with, such confidence. It's a great finish especially because he flicks it up for himself. It's never going to be that easy, but he controls it like it's second nature to him. Danilo as well's part in that goal can't be underestimated. The fact that he's got the ball, yes, he's got space to drive into it. It was the first time Forest really tested and stretched Sheffield United's defence, but he did so well to drive into that space and find Callum. And yeah, it could have been a big turning point in the match. As it was, Forest didn't really kick on from it, but as long as the game was going on 1-0, the nerves would have carried on. So Forest getting back level was crucial for them, and brilliant finish from Callum.
Yeah, it really was. If you're critical of Callum Hudson-Odoi, you always say he doesn't have a left foot. You always know what he's going to do. He's a modern day Iron Robin. He's going to cut in on his right foot and have a shot. So in a sense, a lot of people think it's quite easy to defend against. And maybe against better teams, they would defend it better. But they just gave him that little bit of space. And once you give Callum Hudson-Odoi some space, he's got the quality to exploit it. It was a classic Callum Hudson-Odoi finish, curling it into the far corner, wasn't it? Apart from that, it was still quite an end-to-end game after that, even the Forest goal. Forest didn't really take control of the match at that point, did they? It was still Sheffield United still had their chances in that first half.
Yeah, they certainly did. I mean, they had, I've referred to them as the golden triangle for the first half. Sells, Bolly and Murillo to thank, really, because, in fact, just after Sheffield United scored, they had a chance and Murillo had to do a sort of last tackle, last block. And then he actually injured Sells, and Sells was down for about 5 minutes, and Matt Turner came looming and warming up, and oh dear, it was a bit of a nervy moment, but luckily Sells carried on. And then it was a good job because he really bailed us out on a couple of occasions. I think he saved a one-on-one from Cameron Archer, which I think he skipped past Willy Bolly. Bolly put his hand out, and I was thinking, oh no, don't bring him down. That would have been a red. But he let him go, and Sells came out, made himself big and got the save. And then he made another one a few minutes later from Hamer, who had a long shot, and he tipped it over the bar. I think I've got some stats here. Bolly made 5 clearances, 2 blocks, 3 tackles across the match. Murillo, 5 clearances, 3 blocks, 2 tackles, 4 interceptions. And most of them would have been in the first half. Without those 3, I think Forest could have been, 3 or 4 down at half-time because the rest of the team didn't look very organised. And when Forest won the ball, there was a sea of red and white in front of them, whereas when Sheffield United won the ball back, it was almost like one pass and they were suddenly at Forest back 4 and the midfield wasn't there. And yeah, they had to rely on those 3 to keep them in a game and for the scores to be level at half-time.
Yeah, I think maybe the overall match stats actually bear that out. It was very even. Corners, possession, shots on target, all those things sort of read very evenly for both sides. And I think maybe Forest went into the game with the attitude of we've got to win this game, and maybe had more of an attacking bias, which rather than the sort of defensive bias they usually have against the top teams, where you just have the extra man or 2 sitting, and that does sort of make it more easier for the opposition to get out the back 4 as it was yesterday. But that's despite all those chances, it finished 1-1 at half time.
The 1865 match report.
At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every sport should be epic. Every home run, every hit, every inning, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. Whether it's a walk-off grand slam or a base hit to center field. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Like all of our podcasts this season, this episode of 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast, is sponsored by Greene King Sport, where football is more than a game. Make Greene King your go-to destination for the season's final stretch. But why? Well, for one, you can wash every televised Forest game down with delicious food and refreshing beverages. And with 900 sports pubs dotted around the UK, chances are you're within walking distance of your local Greene King. Let's be honest, watching football is way better with friends and family, so get the squad together for every televised Premier League fixture in an atmosphere worth sharing. That includes huge title showdowns, huge, the race for European qualification, and nail-biting relegation six-pointers, unfortunately involving our very own Nottingham Forest. Don't forget to download the Green King Sport app to enjoy exclusive competitions and discounts whenever there's a game on. Now it's back to your podcast.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the 1865 Nottingham Forest match report. We're now back with George Edwards, looking at the second half of Forest's win at Sheffield United yesterday. And a pretty special start to the second half of Forest, George.
Yes, it was a really good start from Forest, and I think the next goal was always going to be crucial in the match, because if Forest had fell behind again, there'd have been trepidation and nerves in the away end. The home end would have been up and raucous and thinking, here we go, we're going to relegate Forest. Wouldn't they have just loved that? But if Forest had got a goal, then I'm sure the home fans would have been thinking, oh, we've taken the lead again and we fell behind again, and that Forest would have had confidence in themselves. And luckily it did come for Forest. The winner free kick on the left, it's Aina who goes down. He had a good run, actually, and because of the back four, he doesn't really have as many of those mazy runs as he does when he's a fullback, or a wing-back rather. So he had one of them runs, skipped it through someone's legs. Think about Ben Brereton, I'm not sure, and wins the free kick. Left-hand side, Gibbs White sticks it towards the back stick, and Elanga peels off. Back into the middle, Bolly heads it down, and Ryan Yates, the ball's dropping for him. He's got about 3 or 4 seconds to react, and there's only one man that's stepping forward for it. Yates comes onto it, lashes it on the half volley into the back of the net. It's such a fantastic moment. Me and you spoke on the Friday Five about him. He's a magnificent player. I've said many a time he'd be the first name on my team sheet every week. And people in front of me, there was a bloke in front of me at half time saying, get Yates off. You know, he's always the scapegoat when Forest aren't good, because they weren't good in the first half. We've spoken about it. That first half performance wasn't good enough. But if anyone's looking for a scapegoat, it's always Ryan Yates. So I'm so glad that he did that. He silenced the haters. He put Forest ahead. And he scored, I think, at Bramall Lane in the Championship season, his first goal, and then went on a goal-scoring spree. I'm hoping there's another one coming.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really special one, a really thumping finish. And I have to admit, I was welling up after he scored. I was so happy for him. I was starting to get a bit emotional. There's a horrible moment when VAR were looking at it, though, weren't they? And there's a little push from Murillo on Brereton, where just on another day they may well have disallowed it, but thankfully for Ryan Yates and for Forest, they let the goal stand, and it totally deserved. I said on the Friday Five this week that all he needs to do to add to his game is add some goals. And thankfully, one's come. So a bit of prophetic podcasting from us there, I think.
That's it. We predicted the future, didn't we? Just on that, on the foul, as soon as the goal went in, I was celebrating, but my granddad next to me was like, calm down, George. I think there's going to be a foul. And he was pretty sure that there was a foul on Brereton. But looking back at it, I think there's barely anything in it. I mean, Wilders came out and said that it's a clear foul. I don't really agree with that. I think there is a touch from Murillo, but Brereton's not near the ball. And it's not like he's absolutely shoved him over. It's just a little touch. So I think they'd have been unlucky to rule that out. But it wouldn't surprise me.
I think VAR described it as minimal contact, maximum reaction from Brereton Diaz, which I think is a lovely way of putting it, actually. A lovely turn of phrase from the VAR.
At least it wasn't a tussle.
No, it wasn't a tussle, no. No. And I think I'd like to see more of that come into, that phrase come into football, because I think it describes what happens on a lot of decisions, maybe even the Montiel penalty perfectly well. Just because there's minimal contact doesn't mean you have to have maximum reaction from the attacking player. And I think I'd like to see that put into use more often. So Forest 2-1 ahead there, and suddenly things are looking up for them. We were getting reports that Burnley were getting a good battering at home against Newcastle, and suddenly all the pressure seemed to be easing off, but just need another goal maybe just to make us feel a bit more relaxed. And that came again in the shape of Callum Hudson-Odoi.
Yes, it did. The goal really suited Forest, because now they could sit back and obviously what Sheffield United were doing, because the Blades had to come at them. They knew that the home crowd wouldn't accept if they just took the defeat. So Forest could play on the break, and they're so much better doing that. Hudson-Odoi had a chance a couple of minutes before he scored. he did pretty much the same thing, skipping it onto his right foot. I think he put Bogle on the floor and just crashed the post. I mean, I was right behind that one. It was so close, and he was devastated that he didn't put that in, because that really looked like it would be game, set, match. But yeah, 2 minutes later, he gets the goal. Bolly with a brilliant tackle on halfway. Sheffield United thought they were getting some joy, but Big Willie was in the way, put his foot in, played it forward to Gibbs White. Gibbs White further to the left for Hudson-Odoi, and then he gets it, cuts inside, and brilliant bit of quick movement and passes it into the bottom corner. I mean, you know, like you said earlier, you know what he's going to do, but when he does that quick feet, and particularly when it's against a team like Sheffield United, who have proven time and time again with their 100th goal that they conceded now in the Premier League, that they're no good, they're no Premier League standard. When you've got someone like Callum Hudson-Odoi who's having a good day and knows exactly what he's going to do, you know, you're always going to find it difficult to do that. And Gibbs White as well, there was a lot. People have said, you know, it's not his best performance. He's been quite poor, but all 3 goals, he's had a huge hand in. So that shows what a fantastic player he is, because I'll admit he didn't have his best game. You know, a lot of what he was trying wasn't coming off. He was trying to get to the wings to get the ball. But all 3 goals went through him. And when you've got a player like that who always steps up, never shies away, much like Ryan Yates, who doesn't shy away if things aren't going their way, it's fabulous, and a fabulous footballer. And 2 of them, you know, big part in Forest win.
Yeah. Really is what we really signed Callum Hudson-Odoi for, and hopeful when he did sign that he would turn out to be a bit of a bargain, and he could start showing some of that potential he showed as a young man, and realising that potential, because as a teenager there were big hopes from him at Chelsea, and fantastic to see him get another goal. After that, did Forest have any more chances? Were they hanging on a bit? Did Sheffield United worry you at all with what they were threatening with?
Well, the goal came about halfway through the half, and yeah, I don't think Sheffield United carried much threat. The closest they came was when actually Sells, who had saved Forest a few times, he actually gave the ball away, and it was the first time actually really Forest were passing it around the back, and I was a bit like, I don't like this. Come on, lads, get it further up the pitch. And after about 30 seconds of sideways and backwards, one went wrong. Sells passed it, I think, to Brereton, who had a one-on-one against him, but Sells kept him out. The closest chance Forest had, I think, was a free kick, similar to position to the goal. Gibbs White flicked it into the near post this time, and Wood got a flick on it to put it away. But yeah, to put it towards goal, and Fotheringham tipped it round the post for a corner. But yeah, I think the goal really, both teams sort of accepted what was going to happen then. And you're always worried when Forest have got, you know, a 1-goal lead. So a 2-goal lead was just settle the nerves a little bit. There was still a bit of anxiety as to if Forest could actually hold out and see the result out. But yeah, the subs from Nuno, I think, was spot on. He went back to a back 3 to shore things up after the 3rd goal. Took Elanga off, who, in fairness to him, didn't really have much of an impact on the game. And that's because they were giving Hudson-Odoi a chance to step inside, but Elanga didn't really have much space to drive into with his pace. So it wasn't probably the game for him yesterday. So he put the back 3 on, and it's nice to see Forest be able to sort of transition from the 4 into the 3 so effortlessly, because I think that's only a good thing. And the last time he did it was against Luton, and that really didn't go very well. But because Forest had played so well in the back 3 last week, I think it really did suit Forest and help them get over the line. So good substitutions from Nuno, good setup. And yeah, they got over the line without much sweat, thankfully, and for a nice change.
Yeah, let's just clear up those substitutions. Newcastle came on for
Elanga.
And then we had Dominguez and a welcome return for Taiwo Awoniyi. They came on as well, didn't they, the second half? Which and Dominguez had a bit of an impact, not the way he would have wanted maybe at the end of the match, where the ex-Forest player Amadozic.
Pretty much.
he had a bit of his rag somewhat. Had a bit of a temper tantrum, and decided he wanted to send the Forest players home with a few bruises. Anyway, he got 2 yellow cards and a sending off. The first one, if you want to talk us through them both, George.
To be honest, I don't remember the first one, but I have seen it back, and they're both similar incidents, aren't they? In that he sticks his elbow out and takes down a Forest player. It was the second one, Dominguez, wasn't it, when he got sent off? I forgot who the first one was, but yeah, it was a very weird moment. It was pretty much the last kick of the game, and then they get a man sent off. There wasn't really much made of it in the stadium, to be honest, and it was like, oh, it's been sent off, really. But yeah, it wasn't having his finest day, and I think that summed it up for Sheffield United. Perhaps even summed their season up in that it wasn't going their way, and they didn't have enough fight. And because they had the chances on the day, like we said, especially in the first half, they could have merited it. And actually, it reminded me of watching Forest, because they perhaps had more chances, better chances, but didn't take them. And Forest, for the few really big chances they had, they took it. And fair play to Forest. That's why Sheffield United are where they are. Why Forest have got double the points.
Yeah, thankfully, I mean, normally we're cursing our finishing and our defending. We just gave up too many chances and don't take enough chances. Until yesterday, we thankfully came up against a team that was just slightly worse than us and did the same thing, but even better in a perverse way. I think Sheffield United, I think we've all, well, as Forest fans, we've been there at the end of the season where we just don't care at the end of the match. We're sort of fed up with the players, fed up with the manager, fed up with the club. I just want to get out of the stadium as quickly as possible and just write this season off. So I can understand why they weren't that bothered. But for Forest, 3-1 win, 3 welcome points, and a bit of a gap there now between us and Luton and Burnley. And if things go our way next Saturday afternoon, we could more or less be safe by the time we kick off against Chelsea, can't we, George?
Yeah, we definitely could. 3 points was the main thing from yesterday. The performance, like we said, wasn't great. Forest had to get 3 points, didn't they? Because last weekend we came away saying good performance, but not quite enough. This week, probably the opposite. So we'd absolutely take it. Yeah, they had to get a win, really. I mean, if they'd have got a draw, I think more psychologically than anything, because if you'd have gone away to the bottom of the league team, who are one of the worst sides the Premier League has ever seen, and you need a win to stay up, you'd probably choose them to play and you can't get it done, then that would dent confidence as much as it would your league table positioning. So, yeah, I mean, I think Forest could actually relegate Burnley this week off the pitch if they get some points back from the appeal. Hopefully, finally, we might hear that this week, the verdict on that. And, yeah, West Ham for Luton, I think it is, and Burnley are playing Tottenham, isn't it? Burnley are playing Tottenham. Yeah. So 2 very tough games before Forest kick off. And, by then, if they both lose, they'll only need a point to mathematically secure safety. And we can have a party away at Burnley when it was looking like maybe we wouldn't. So, yeah, in terms of the Chelsea game, I'm thinking Nuno might go towards the back 5 again. Like I said before, I wasn't really an advocate for it. But I think what it does is when you've got Yates and Danilo in there, neither of them are a natural sort of number 6 that can sit in front of the back 4. Maybe Mangala sort of was that player who didn't really stretch forward, but we know Yates likes to get forward and Danilo is that natural creative player. So if you have the back 5, it allows maybe Bolly or Niakate to step out and fill that gap. That's why I think maybe Forest might go towards that direction, and why I'm sort of starting to come around towards it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the formation?
Well, it's a tricky one. I think it worked really. It worked really well against City, and I think maybe against the better teams it will do, because they only play with Jackson up front. So the way we played against City, it became a back 3 rather than a back 5 as it's been a lot of the times we played it, and it allows us to maybe pack the midfield again and get on top of their sort of creative midfield players like Cole Palmer. Maybe give Gallagher a bit less space, and they've got similar to Man City. They've got very attacking fullbacks as well. So yeah, I can see where your logic is there, and I just imagine though the party atmosphere. If all you need is a point to stay up against Chelsea next Saturday evening. I can imagine it could be quite a special atmosphere and another memorable day, hopefully, like it was against Arsenal last season. But we'll look at that next week on another match report. We'll be back then, and we'll be back with our Friday 5. But thank you for joining us. Thank you, George. And I hope you have a great rest of the week.
Social Podcast Network.